Go.
Okay, it's July 18th, 2024. I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich. We're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. This is the second segment, and I believe it's the chapter 10, Church Service and the Bulge. We're on page 281 and 132nd docuseries. So here we go. I asked one of the MPs on traffic duty if he knew of any place that had any ammo. He was not much help as he was too preoccupied in keeping the traffic moving. I finally came upon a supply building and inquired if they had any ammo. The sergeant in charge took me into a subterranean cellar which was displayed a huge cache of arms and ammunition. I quickly asked if the Germans knew of this spot. He smiled and said he hoped not. I struggled with a case of 30 caliber for the gun and a box of 39 caliber for the M1s. Could you show us with your fingers on how big a 30 caliber ammo was? How big a 30 caliber bullet was?
The length?
The 30 caliber, but show us with you, how big is it? Is it about this big?
Well, it's a 30 caliber.
Just go like this.
Huh?
Like this.
No.
30 caliber. How about this?
No, it's too long. That's too long.
How about this?
No. Wait a minute.
How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's
yeah.
30
Hold it
caliber.
up.
That'd be like a 30.
It's a little longer than that, yeah.
A little longer than that. Okay. When you picked them up at the ammo depot, about how many rounds did you pick up?
I probably picked up 3 boxes.
And how many?
Ammo boxes.
How many boxes were they? How many?
One box would hold 14, 15 belts.
How many are in each belt?
About 150.
So you picked up a lot of ammo.
Yeah.
You picked up a lot of ammo. I struggled with the case of 30 caliber for the gun and a box of 39 caliber for the M1s. I waited outside to see if I could catch a ride back to our position. After I waited around for several minutes, a 6x6 came by. I hitched a ride back to the area. I gave each ammo bearer 2 boxes of 30 caliber for the gun, and Leip and I each carried a box along with the tripod and the receiver. The 30 caliber was distributed around, and we were all well equipped for the time being. As far as food went, we had not had a hot meal in over a week, and our K rations were quickly getting depleted. I suspected we would have to crash a mess hall shortly to sustain our energy and spirits. I suspected we'd have to crash a mess hall shortly to sustain our energy level and spirits. I thought a better idea after hearing that we're pulling out of the drivers, all the sorts, some of the rear echelon people, giving them a rifle and sending them off to help ward off the onslaught of the rapidly deployed German tanks and infantry. So your idea was to take that rear echelon that's not on the front and send them out to the front to help everyone out. Was that correct?
Well, they were really experienced. Good way to get them killed.
We were attached to the armored company 6 miles north of Bastogne to help slow the drive of Germans into town. We heard that an advanced unit of Panzer divisions did not roll into the Magaret, a village 5 miles west of Bastogne, until 200 hours. In Magaret, the Panzer unit stumbled into a bunch of American trucks and ambulance. Firing broke out, and the Germans discovered that they had captured a hospital unit. So what did they do at the hospital unit the Germans captured?
Germans had the hospital unit?
It says right here, the Germans discovered they had captured a hospital unit. What will they do with all the injured?
They captured the U.S. hospital unit, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
where was the spot where you ran into a chocolate factory?
that was in yeah, we told him not to eat that candy or nothing, yeah.
Do you remember where it was?
It was in, where the hell was it? It was in France, someplace in France.
And was it a big chocolate factory or was it more of a store?
It was a store. It wasn't a factory, it was a store that sold chocolates.
And
I said, don't eat the damn chocolate at all.
it looked very enticing though, right?
They probably left, the old elected that got out of the commotion.
But there's chances that the Germans poisoned it.
Well, I don't know. I didn't think they had time to do anything to it.
But you didn't take any chances. Did some of the guys try
If
it?
they move out that chocolate, you could see it.
Did some of the guys take a chance in trying it?
Probably somebody who took a bite of it, yeah.
Wow. It must have smelled really nice in that store, didn't it?
Huh?
It must have smelled really nice in that store
Yeah.
after being this mess.
Well, you know, it's middle of December. They didn't have no heat in there or nothing. That chocolate was hard as a rock.
Really? Wow.
I put stuff in the refrigerator.
It was foggy and bitter cold, and we had sat all night in a dugout watching the road ahead for any movements of tanks or infantry. We had nothing to eat but several K rations and water from our canteens. Lape was asleep at the gun, as mostly the rest of the squad, in adjoining foxholes or slit trenches. I had been awake most of the night anticipating the German breaking through at any moment. There was talk that we would be pulling back shortly as the Germans were massing another attack. Okay, that was the end of chapter 10, and then we're moving forward to chapter 11, page 282 of a 900-page book.
Okay.
Snow Bunkers and Panzers. Here we go. Snow Bunkers and Panzers, it's titled as. I threw a couple pebbles into the foxholes and slit trenches. As they peered out, I mentioned them to stay awake and keep a sharp lookout. The last thing I wanted to do was to be ambushed in our holes. Even though there were several Shermans away back, I didn't want to depend on them for security. During the night, we had a couple probing attacks by infantry and several combat patrols. Which were at the rest of the supporting infantry, which was concentrated firepower. They would infiltrate in twos and threes until they had a large enough group to advance on us. And they opened up with their Schmalzer MP40 burp guns blazing it away. What was a burp gun?
It was a miniature machine gun.
Did all the Nazis have one?
Yeah?
Was that a common weapon for the infantry of the Nazis?
Well, us too. Yeah, we have them too.
How big were they about? Could you show me with your hands?
Yeah.
Could you show me with your hands how big a burp gun was?
How big a burp gun
Could you
was?
just do this? Could you show me this way? Like this?
No, it wasn't that big. No, burp.
Like this?
No.
Show me with your hands. Just show me with your hands.
It would take half of that sleeve she's putting on. Half of that sleeve, yeah. Yeah, right here.
So that's about the size of a burp gun.
Yeah.
Okay, how many rounds did a burp gun fit?
150.
Wow, that was a lot.
On a belt.
That was a lot. Oh, Lord. Okay. An ultimate fireman would call in an SCR 536 walkie-talkie, and within minutes, 105s and 155s would come screaming in on our front.
What are those? 155s.
155s.
What are those?
Huh?
What's a 155?
155 millimeter, that's a 105 or 155 artillery piece. How big the shell is.
You would call it in with a walkie-talkie?
How big the shell is, and how trajectory is, what the distance is have.
You would call it in and the artillery would come. You would call it in by your walkie-talkie, and then the artillery would start commencing fire.
I tell them, send me anything you got.
And we would come in, we'd come screaming into our front. Shermans would open up with their 75s, and we would join them with their heavy machine guns. along with the riflemen, dug in all around us. If we were unlucky, that would be sufficient to contain them, or they would break up and fade into the wooded area around us. If the Tigers accompanied them, it was another matter. Their 88s were deadly, and their armor was almost impenetrable, with only the soft spot below the driver's position, almost at ground level height. Several started towards us and earlier in the night, but at the last minute they turned around. We later discovered that we were after a lucrative target. The column of stored American vehicles on the road began Longley and Margaret. The slaughter was devastating. The stragglers of the 9th Armored Division roadblocks and the other refugees from the area were panicked by heavy bombardment and roar of the approaching tanks. Without putting up any show of resistance, they scattered toward Boston on foot. We watched as they fled by us. Some had thrown down their weapons and were only convinced of getting away from the oncoming infantry and the Tiger tanks.
So wait, they were retreating, the Germans were?
Who was retreating, the Germans or the Americans?
Yeah.
You said, we watched as they fled by us. Some had thrown down their weapons and were only concerned with getting away from the oncoming infantry and the Tiger tanks.
But they know they were overwhelmed.
It was most of the American soldiers worried about a Tiger tank.
Oh, yeah. any tank you worry about.
Okay.
Any tank.
Okay. Some of the men in the squad were taken up by the route and wanted to join them. I shouted to them to stand fast. It was not my stern voice that constrained them, but the sight of the rest of the men around them staying put in their foxhole finally quieted them.
You know, these foxholes, winter time, they couldn't dig the ground too hard. So what they do, if they had the time, they cut down trees, maybe a small tree, 2 or 3 inches in diameter, and put up a shelter, put a surface thing over your head.
And that was your camouflage.
Yeah, and then you could put a small heater in there to keep warm. That was better than a stupid
Foxhole.
foxhole. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. The highway was a mass of wreckage. Almost every vehicle in a long column was destroyed or abandoned. There were American tanks, armored cars, self-propelled guns, trucks, and jeeps. Many GIs were sprawled among the brightly burning trucks and jeeps. In all, more than 200 vehicles have been captured or destroyed. Lape suggested that we take off. I said nothing but concentrated on the road ahead. A short while later, the captain from the airborne drove up and told us to pull back and make sure we took our weapons with us. I nodded in acknowledgement and told Lape to pull the gun out. It was going to get the rest of the squad together. They were all perturbed and they thought of being left behind, and I assured them that we're moving out as I spoke to them. We formed up behind a group of paratroopers and started toward Bastogne, the next town. As we reached its outskirts, they were told to dig in the gun and dig in some deep holes for ourselves. I wanted to tell someone that we were low on ammunition, but there's so much confusion that I gave the idea and concerned myself with the squad and the gun emplacement. We had no sooner got ourselves situated in that order and came down to move out into the center of the town. There was much confusion. We could have easily taken off and no one would have missed us. As we milled about, resisting some kind of instruction of a young second lieutenant, the 7th Armored Division came upon us and motioned us to follow him. We scurried into the back of the 6x6s with our guns and were driven out of town down a deserted road. After several minutes of driving, we stopped and told to dig our gun in and make our foxhole 15 yards apart, and we were part of the perimeter defense. and try to hold the onrushing German armies from taking Bastogne, the town we had just left. After the lieutenant had gone, Leip wanted to know why we were getting all the grubby details. I asked him rather disgustedly if he would rather be in the 106th right now at the moment. 106th, as you mentioned, was actually, they all got slaughtered.
Huh?
The 106th all got slaughtered. 106th.
Oh, yeah.
All got slaughtered. So
They
Leip,
just got into the accident. They didn't know what the hell was going on.
because Leip said he was mad that they were getting all the crappy jobs, and you said to him, would you rather have been in the 106th? You know, that there, but for the grace of God, I had seen part of the 106th back in the States for a short while. I could not see much difference between them and the 75th. They were both loaded with disgruntled ASTP and Air Corps GIs with a monomania for getting out of the infantry and back to soft, cushioned assignments.
Oh, they plugged all those units, those line units, with those guys from ASCP and the guys from the colleges. They didn't know nothing. You might as well not have it. They didn't have the street smarts or nothing.
They had no fighting ability.
Yeah, they just put them in for a body, that's all.
Yeah. And they did get all slaughtered.
And they got killed.
Yeah. The infantry was something you wanted no part of, and you certainly did not want to speak in its admiration. I was no hero, nor was I gun-ho, but I felt I had a duty to my country and to all the soldiers serving me to do my best, and I could still keep myself in one piece. By dusk the day, Willis was surrounded, and darkness came, all out assault from three directions. Communications with the command post was lost, ammunition was all gone, and a few surviving tankers were numb with exhaustion. I told Leip to fire in short bursts and conserve our ammo, and to fire only when he had a target. He nodded and glanced at the few remaining boxes of ammunition. There was no sense of sending ammo barrels out, as there was none to be found. They were told to fire their carbines only when they had a target, and to conserve the ammo they had left. The state of complete chaos and pandemonium had us all bewildered. We did not know what to think. The greatest army in the world was in complete disarray, and we faced a prospect.
Not the whole army, a small unit of it.
And we faced the prospect of eventual capture by the enemy. That wouldn't have been a good sight of the army.
Huh?
If the enemy captured you, that wouldn't have been a good day.
The what?
If the enemy would have captured you, that would have been a horrible situation.
They either shot you there or take it back to wherever prisoner of war.
Yeah. Most probably shot you.
Take you in a PW camp.
Most probably shot you. Yeah. A scout for the 7th Armored Division, sneaking through several enemy roadblocks, reported to CP in town that there was no reinforcements coming. Wilkes was considered lost, and all the supplies and troops were to be sent to Bastogne. Wilkes was in the 28th Division sector, and it was here that the Germans made their largest gains. The left flanks of the 28th was forced to withdraw to the west bank of the Earth River, and right flank pushed back the additional 1 to 2 miles. It was the center of the division that the enemy made its deepest penetrations. Everywhere else where American withdrawal had been 4 to 6 miles. The weight against the 28th Division was so overwhelming that its thin defenses disintegrated and the enemy achieved a breakthrough. In a withdrawal, a wide gap was created through the enemy pushed a great deal of armor. Enemy thrusts became strong points, encircled companies, and destroyed or captured them one by one. There was a complete disintegration of regimental defenses on the 28th Division. Command post itself was attacked when the enemy approached Woltz. Many stragglers were falling back through the town, and the roads were jammed to the south and the west. But no attempt was made to hold any of these men. American units were helter-skelter all along the road, and they were making little or no effort to adjust themselves to the situation or set up a local defense. We were told the German tanks and infantry were pouring in from the south along the Wilkes-Bastille Road. Many stragglers hysterically shouted what they saw. The German tanks were wider and low-slung and much larger than any Sherman tank. Behind the tanks came armored cars, half-tracks, and more giant tanks, and the vehicles were all marked with a black cross, and the men in them wore black leather jackets. Some of the tanks carried German paratroopers behind them, and came the infantry in their white camouflage jumper uniforms. Strong columns of Volks grenadiers backed the tanks and sweep away everything in the path of attack, which were the facts approaching Wilkes. The commanding center there received the final message: withdraw from the present position if they became untenable. Minutes?
8.
Huh?
8.
German paratroopers have been spotted a few miles to the east, and the enemy patrols seen far behind the enemy lines. No one knew where the enemy was coming from. Frontline survivors in small and large groups struggled through the slippery snow, looking desperately for refuge, keeping together in the darkness by hanging on to each other's cartridge belts. Riflemen had dropped their Christmas packages, bedrolls and shelter halves, overcoats, even their food and rifles, when they became too exhausted to go on. They bedded down in the snow and shallow foxholes, but were too cold and miserable to sleep. Every noise was terrifying, for they knew the Germans were on all sides. It was almost 2,400 hours. Shells were exploding in the streets of Wilkes, and their rear guard defenders fell back from the lower Wilkes to the upper town. And then down the road to the Cafe Schumann crossroads, 3 miles southwest of Wilkes, which by now was deserted. Germans crowding from all sides hesitated, but they would make one final assault at dawn. We were told to break up in small units, 10 to 12 men, and infiltrate back through the Germans. We were to take only necessary equipment and ammunition and destroy the rest. I decided to destroy the gun, as we had only a half a belt of ammo for it, and it was too burdensome to carry. So what gun? Are you destroying the heavy machine gun?
Yeah.
How would you destroy it?
Pull the pin out, slam it on a rock or something, that's it.
And it was not
It's
usable.
inoperative.
Did a lot of those machine guns go down that way?
No, I don't think so. These guys they hang out to it. That's the only defense they have. They tell open headquarters, destroy it, and what are they going to do, start the field with a pistol?
It would be useless without any ammo. Besides, it slowed us down. I pulled the breech and jerked out the firing mechanism and bent the firing pin, then plugging as far as I could into the deep snow. The rest of the receiver I emptied into the water and banged it several times with my rifle butt. The tripod was bent out of shape, and one of the legs was completely at the 90-degree angle. I'll bet you all those months of fighting you never thought your machine gun was going to end that way.
The what?
I bet you all the months you carrying that machine gun, being trained on that machine gun, you never thought it would end this way with the gun.
Never saw what?
You never thought your machine gun would be eventually destroyed. You always thought that was your main weapon. You never thought they would be destroyed.
Well, I didn't destroy them. I didn't destroy their weapons.
How did it get destroyed again?
But they gave you the order to destroy all your weapons and only keep your...
Well, they tell me to destroy my weapons. I said, bullshit, I'll pull back, but I'm not destroying my weapon. I'll go sit where my pea shooter sitting out.
So
you didn't destroy it?
No, they give some stupid orders, and you're up on the line, you say, what the hell they're talking about?
In exactly 20 minutes, Leip and I were in church, waiting for the rest of the squad to show up. All ready Advanced elements of German paratroopers were entering the town, their blue uniforms showing through their white camouflage jumpsuits. There were men of the 5th Parachute Division who had just taken the bridge of Sauer 5 miles south of Wiltz and had separated into 2 advancing parties. Leip and I just missed running into them as we returned to our rendezvous area at the church. They were all young, eager for battle, and all profoundly in a state of euphoria over their recent victories in their latest offensive. They were ordered to bypass Wiltz and drive west, but these young, headstrong paratroopers had made up their minds to make it a personal raid on Wiltz for booty.
Now, if you say a paratroop was coming to run into the woods, I told it would scatter in the woods, that's it.
So you guys ran into the woods?
Huh?
You guys ran into the woods?
Ran into the woods, yeah.
Why with this paratrooper?
Now, you don't be running on the road and these guys got the Jeeps and everything else, got air control and everything else. They'll spot you and blow the hell out of you. So I said, run into the damn woods.
And that's what saved your life.
And then we'll try to run into someplace.
Yeah.
Now, they give you some stupid orders from the headquarters and that you couldn't do it.
Our break came through when we were surprised by a couple of American Jeeps racing through the town heading for Bastogne. The paratroopers picked up the rifles and machine guns and fired into Jeeps, running a gauntlet. We hurried to the church with the rest of the squad that was waiting for us, fearing that we had gotten caught in a firefight down the street. Artificial moonlight, Germans had brought up large floodlights powered by portable generators, now flooded most of the eastern and northern approaches of town. Our best chance of escape lay in the southern approach away from Bastogne. I figured we'd have a better chance by going away from it rather than jamming our way into it. We could be of no use there since we had no gun or ammo, and I did not relish being captured or killed as the SS did.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
So they had no ammo and no weapons at that point.
It was almost 24 hours and the shells were exploding in the streets of Wiltz. We could see the bright flashes they made as they burst.
How do you spell that city?
WILTZ.
Wiltz.
We were in a woody area surrounded by large evergreen trees. I was trying to get my bearings so as not to be headed in the wrong direction. We traveled about a mile from Wiltz and were proceeding cautiously as we did not want to run into any more paratroopers or worse yet, a Panzer unit of a company or a battalion straight advancing on Bastogne. Minutes? The men were exhausted from wading through the waist-high snow. Luckily, the wind had died down and it did not seem quite as cold as the other nights. My feet were soaking wet as I changed my socks while we rested.
I want to mention that, John, I see you tapping your foot quite a bit. What's going on with your foot right now?
It's frostbite. It's frostbite. Every time I get down to a certain degree, it's frostbite. I had it last night.
Yeah.
I get up and put 2 towels wrapped around it.
Wow.
And that's an 80-year-old injury.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's in the system.
Yeah.
It's all right when it's above that temperature. Once it gets down to the temperature, that's it. I'm lucky I didn't lose the foot.
Yeah. It would soon be by daylight and let the squad rest until then. We would then push on until we hooked up with another American unit. Minutes?
1.
I set up a makeshift guard roster with 2 men on at all times and was soon sound asleep, curled up in a blanket. I had liberated several weeks ago. The guard on duty woke me and sat up and looked at my watch. It was 4:30 hours. Soon it would be light. I turned to the guard and told him to get some sleep, and I would take the remainder of the watch. I sat up, huddled in my blanket, staring bleary-eyed at the woods. I knew we could not stay here. And I certainly did not want to get captured. I thought of the ordeal convinced me that the only thing to do was push on, hoping we would link up shortly. I desperately wanted to brush my teeth as they felt like they were coated with sand. I thought better of it. I would look awful foolish. I would look awful foolish with a toothbrush in my hand and a German soldier staring over me with a machine pistol.
Oh, yeah?
You said you wanted to brush yours. Is that over?
No, 8 minutes, 8 seconds.
You said the you want to brush your teeth desperately, but you thought against it because you would look stupid